then you're going to need to loft it. And so this is where we're actually going to create something cool, something 3D. We're going to take the loft command up here and click it. Keep everything default for now. And we're going to click on the circle and the base sketch. And now you can see it lofted it, but it didn't use our guides. So what we need to do is add those guides. So we're going to click guides and we're going to make it follow those guidelines that we created. So click on each one of those. There we go. Okay, so now we have our basic mask shape, and we can just leave this loft one. So if you want to modify the shape at all, you can go back to any of these sketches here and you can just start messing around with those lines and splines and moving them around to get this to, you know, maybe fit better on your face. So if your measurements are off a little bit, you can go back and change things at any point. If I want to, you know, there's like that little divot here in the top of this, I can go back, move that down just a little bit. Okay, and that fixes that. So at this point you can modify it to make it look a little bit nicer, and if it doesn't look quite right to you, but that is what it should look like after you've lofted it and used your guides. From here you're going to make a spot to put a cartridge filter or some type of a filter. The way that I designed this is so that it's roughly the size of a cotton pad. So you could use a cotton pad or you could cut your own filters to fit in this. Again, this may need to be modified a little bit. You could even change that shape at some point. If you didn't like the circle, you could go to a square shape if you wanted to put in a square type filter. So, you know, this can all be modified, and if the one way that I like to do that, if I was going to do that, I would actually just make a copy of this Part Studio down here. I would duplicate it, and then I would just make modifications and make another version of it in a different Part Studio. That's usually how I do it. But we're just going to go ahead and use this one for now as an example. So we're going to extrude, and we're going to remove. So extrude one, remove this circle, and we're going to go down about, let's say, 8 millimeters. We may need to adjust this later. Okay, so that leaves us with a spot in the middle to put a filter. And well, we might want to name that, or we could do filter extrude. Okay, because we're going to have a few extrudes in here, so at some point this could get confusing. So we'll just name it filter extrude, and now we can create or make this hollow. So we can do a shell feature, and we can click on just this inner part of the mask to hollow out, and we're going to make the shell thickness, let's do 1.2 millimeters. Okay, so 1.2 millimeters tends to work pretty good for a shell thickness when you're using PLA, and we're just going to go with that for now. We can always change it later. We can go up to, you know, if we want it thicker, go up to 2 or something like that, or the thinnest I'd probably go is 0.8. I usually don't go much thinner than that. So we can check mark that now, and you can see there is our extruded cartridge area inside. We need to put some holes in there yet for breathing, and you can see on this side we still got it, so it's all there. It's looking good. Next, I want to make some holes for breathing, and we're going to do that on this face right here, this sunken in face on the front of the mask. So we're going to start a sketch, and we can name it breathing hole sketch. And then we're going to click on this plane right here, so inside, and it'll say face of filter extrude if you named it correctly. So when you look at it, it looks like this. The plane is down inside of that indented area, and we're going to sketch on there. We can make any shape we want really for breathing holes. We could do slots, we could do circles, lots of different options. So I'm going to go ahead and make a emergency symbol that looks something like this. So the star of life, the EMS symbol. So we're going to make a box, just this portion right here, and then we're going to pattern it all the way around. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we're going to just create a line first of all, and line it up with the center, or in the center of this circle. So to do that, you gotta come over to find a point on this side and a point on the top, drag down until you find that center point, and then you click and then start drawing your line straight up. And we'll just draw it straight up for now, and we won't put any dimensions on it right away. We'll dimension it now. So 25 is what we're going to go with. We can change that later if we need to. And then we're going to draw a line off of there, and then straight down, and then over. So rectangle, and we're going to make the top of that, let's make it 5 for now. Okay, and then we're going to mirror, using this mirror line, these lines here. Okay, so we ended up with a rectangle. We can delete the middle line. The rectangle looks something like that. Alright, so now we want to pattern that. We're going to do a circular pattern. You have linear pattern and transform as well up in this box, so you want to do circular pattern, and we're going to highlight everything, and we're going to drag this little box right here down, okay, to the center of that line, and then we're going to type in 6 and enter, and then you can see kind of the outline that's going to create. So if I hit or click off to the side, now you can see there's my shape, and we can then extrude that, and we will have an area that we can breathe from. So we could delete some of these lines out of the inside if we wanted to and just make it a solid, star looking shape, but we're just going to go ahead and check mark that for now, and then extrude. We'll call this breathing hole extrude. It just helps so much when you have things named that it's a lot easier to go back and change things later if you need to, so that if we want to change the way that our breathing holes look or the size or anything, we can just click on that quickly and get back to it. So that's why we do that. Faces and sketch regions to extrude, we're going to extrude remove. Make sure you click remove, and then just start clicking these surfaces. They're going to turn red at first because they're not all connected. We have to click everything in here as well. Now if you wanted to later, you could come and connect or put something in the middle to hold this all together. If say for some reason this printed and it just wasn't durable enough or something, you could put something in the middle to hold that together. Or you could do a pattern of holes, or you could do slots. There's lots of different things you could do here, but I'm just doing this for example, and you know, you can always modify it later, and like I recommended earlier, just make a duplicate copy of your part studio. So you just 2-finger click, and you can always duplicate, and then you can make modifications to that duplicate model, so you always have your original. Okay, so there we go. Now we have breathing holes. We could put a fillet now to kind of soften some of these edges. Let's do a 1mm fillet. So type in 1 on the radius there. And then we're going to click on, let's click on these pointy edges right here. So you got to get down and you got to get that line right there. And you got to do that to all of them. All of these points. Okay, then you can use the same fillet, and we can fillet this edge. If it doesn't go all the way around, you need to sometimes click on the individual surfaces or lines, but that one worked, and that looks pretty good. That softens that edge up. We could also do the back side. And I'm going to do this inner edge. There we go. And that went all the way around except for, looks like it stopped right about here. So I need to, oops. If you click something that you don't want, you can just exit out right here. It's the last one that you did. Okay, so then they can click on this line here. And there we go, that continues the fillet all the way around. Looks good. We can also do it on this top surface if we want to. Or X that one out. You can just do the outer edge. I think that's what I'm going to do. So if I check mark that, I should have some rounded edges here on this circle, the inner circle there, and then these are all rounded off here, and then on the outside on the top part of that circle it's all rounded off. So you can fillet those, that'll make those edges a little bit softer. There's more you could do with that if you wanted to, but we're just going to leave it right there. So the next part then is going to be creating the insert that we need to hold our filter in. Okay, from this point we need to make our mouthpiece insert, and so we're going to first of all make some tabs so we can line up the mouthpiece. That's going to allow us to breathe. Otherwise, if the tab was, or the insert is put in there wrong, you could end up plugging your hole and not being able to breathe. So you want to make sure that you get this tab in there for this style of hole. So we're going to sketch on the inside of our indented surface there. So it looks like that. It says face of filter extrude, and we're going to call this alignment tab sketch. Okay, and we're just going to create a circle right down here, this vertex, and we're going to dimension that to 3 millimeters. And we're then going to create a line we can mirror off of, so use a construction line here and just go from the center to the center here, and then use your mirror tool, that line, and then select the circle and mirror it over. Okay, so now we can extrude that half circle and that half circle. Okay, not that much though. So we want to go and change this blind up to vertex. And let's go right there. And that did it on that side, so we are good to go there. Alright, now we have some tabs there, so we can create our insert with alignment tabs. And to do that, we're just going to extrude from this surface and then just remove a little bit so that we can reinsert our piece. We don't need to resketch this drawing again. All we need to do is click on extrude, and first of all, I'm going to go back here and just name this here. Rename, tab, extrude. We're just going to have so much stuff going on here. It's nice to have names in there. Okay, so this one is going to be, we could call it mouthpiece extrude. Okay, and then we're going to extrude this here inside, but we're going to create a new part, and we're only going to go 6 millimeters. You want it to sit down in there a little bit, and we did 8 millimeters for depth, so 6 will give us 2 millimeters of room. That'll allow us to put a piece of cotton or some sort of a filter in there later on. So we can change that too later on if we need to, that depth. I'm not sure exactly where that's going to need to be, but I'm going to guess around 2 millimeters for now. So once we have that done, you can check mark that. Now you have your insert. You end up with 2 parts down here, and you can hide those parts at any time by clicking the eyeball, and then you end up with just the other part. Okay, and we want to now, because we know that when we print this, we 3D print it, it's not going to fit if we keep it right up to the edge here. So this mouthpiece, if it's right up to the edge, will not fit in here. So we need to give it a little bit of room. I'm just going to go with 1 millimeter for now. We're going to cut off 1 millimeter from the outer edge and see how that goes. We can print a copy of that mouthpiece. It's not a whole lot of material, and then we can test it and we can adjust it from there. So we're going to go with 1 millimeter. We can adjust it later. To do that, we're going to sketch on top of that mouthpiece. Okay, looks like that. And we're just going to do an offset. We're going to click on that mouthpiece. Oops. So I want to do an offset. Of the circle. Not just that part. I want to do the whole thing. Okay, so oh, I see. Offset could not be created this distance. So I can still do it. I just need to, there we go, drag it in a little bit. Okay, so drag that arrow in and hit enter, and then we're going to type in 1 for the distance of the offset. Okay, we're also going to create another 1 millimeter offset for the inside of this star, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. So you can, once you've got that one done, you can just start clicking on these lines. And if you want, you can drag this arrow back so it starts to show up for you there. You can see what we're doing as we go along. So you got to click on each individual line within the symbol. And enter. And we're going to do another, we'll do 1 millimeter here as well. Again, we can change that stuff later on. And we're just going to call this mouth piece sketch. Okay, and you can still see the sketch. If not, you can always hit the eyeball there and it should show up. Now we're going to extrude, and we're going to do two extrudes here. We're going to remove the outer edge, so click on just the outer edge here, and you want to do merge scope this part, and you want to do just 6, same depth as our mouthpiece. Okay, so now we want to show our sketch again. We want to do another extrude. This time you want to grab that other sketch that we offsetted from the inner part, and we're going to do 1 millimeter, but we're going to go the other direction. Okay, so the arrow is facing down, and you want to add this. You don't want a new part, you want to add it to it. So check mark that. What that's going to do is leave a ridge here that allows us to grab this out a little bit easier. So again, this may need to be adjusted later, but that will get us pretty close to where we need to be. And that then should be good for our mouthpiece, and the mask is just about done here. At this point I want to change my appearance, so of the parts I want to change the color, and I'm going to go to part 1, double or right click on it, and edit appearance. And you can go to the mixer if you want to mix your own colors, or you can use the palette. I'm just going to use the palette here, and I'm going to change that to a whitish color, and then I'm going to change part 2 to red. You can use whatever colors you want to. If we're going to print this, you know, you might want to use something that is similar to what you're going to be printing with. You don't have unlimited colors when you're printing, but you know, you can be creative here and use whatever you want. So there's the mask so far. There's a few things left we need to do here. We need to make a curve on the bottom. Let's see here. I'm going to look at the right side of it. Okay, so we need to make a curve right in here to make it fit our face a little bit better. So we're going to start a sketch and bring back our planes. So I'm going to hit P, click on my right plane, hit P again, get rid of that. And I just want to start a sketch down here somewhere, a longer line. Oops, made that crooked. We want to keep that horizontal, so use a constraint there, make sure it's horizontal. There we go. Okay, once you have that line, you can draw a straight line up. And draw another straight line up over here. We're going to dimension that 25 and just make sure this one's the same, 25, okay. And then the length of this one doesn't matter, so I'm not at this point anyways, so I'm just going to leave that, and we're going to put a 3-point arc in. 1, 2, so the end to end, and then we're going to put the 3rd point right on the origin there. That's going to create a face now that we can actually extrude out. And if you look at this, we drew that on the right plane, so it's right down the center, so we have to extrude it out symmetrically. Okay. And we can always adjust this at any point to make that curve fit better if we feel like it's not fitting right. So you can always come back in here and adjust that. Alright, so I'm going to leave it about right there and see how that turns out. I might move this line up just a little more. There we go. So this doesn't really matter if it's perfect. It just, you want to have a curve there of some sort, and I think that's going to make it fit a little bit better on your face. The masks that I was looking at had something similar, so we're going to go with this. We can call this sketch face curve sketch if we want to, or something that makes sense. And then we can check mark that. And we can actually then go and extrude that right away. We're going to do a symmetric extrude, and it's going to be a remove. So remove, symmetric, choose this face, and we're going to go, well, just as long as it goes all the way out. So we want to go, we know it's 100 wide, so let's just go 200. There we go. Okay. And then you can call this face curve extrude, check mark. All right, there we go. Now that looks a little bit better. Okay, and then we just have one more thing I want to do here, and that is add some holes for our bands. And to do that, I think I'm going to start another sketch on the right plane and do the same thing going outwards. So we'll bring it back up to right view, and we'll do another sketch. And this time I'm going to choose right plane again. Oops. Okay. We're going to call this let's see, band hole sketch. Okay. And what we're going to do now is just create a construction line going kind of straight across this bottom level here for now. And then we can create a line on that construction line and another one over here. And we're going to dimension those two. Oh, first of all, I'm going to get rid of that construction line. Probably didn't need that because I think I'm going to do something different here anyways, but it's fine, we can leave it. So let's dimension this to 10. Okay, so this one's 10 as well. And then let's create a slot. So right up in here, slot, click on the line, and then your slot size, you can double click on that and you can change that. I'm going to change mine to 5 and see how that looks. Let's do 4. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. Click on this one and make it a 4mm slot. Okay, now we can do transform. And we can rotate this so that it kind of lines up with our curvature. And then do the same thing down here. So transform, drag it down with the box, and then use that end of the arrow to rotate it to get it to the angle you want it. Something close to what our curvature looks like, and then keep it just a little bit away from the edge there. Maybe a little bit further from the edge. Oops, not that. Now I need to rotate that again. There we go. Okay, so we can move these around later. We know that this is our band hole sketch. We can come back in here and change that. So now we just need to extrude remove and symmetric again. And we're going to do 200 again. And then we're going to go inside, so underneath, click on those sketches. And there we go. And we can call this band hole extrude. Alright, check mark that. And that is our finished mask.